Hello. I know a lot of you guys come to this channel for my top 3 games videos, the most recent one being top 3 American Civil War games. And I want to thank everybody for being so kind on that video, liking, commenting, and subscribing, and I'm asking you to do the same here, because I want to show you, in my opinion, the top 3 Napoleonic war games that are out today. And unfortunately, some of these games, quite frankly, are pretty old games. Nonetheless, they continue to be the absolute best. And the first one we're going to be looking at is Scourge of War Waterloo. Now, if you're more of a campaign guy, a sandbox campaign guy, you can click this button and do the sandbox campaign. There's also some user scenarios that you can touch upon with, but what I want to look at today are the Waterloo battles. Now, of course, if you want to play as the French, you can do that as the great Napoleonic Empire, or you can play as the Allies here. Now, if you look over here at Quatre Bras, Ligné, and Wavre, these are available as downloadable content. We're not going to be touching upon them today, but we're going to touch upon just one of the French focuses here. You could play at the brigade level, the division level, the corps level. It's totally up to you. And of course, depending on the experience level, you're probably going to want to focus on one or the other. This game, despite being fairly old, is damn beautiful. I like to think so anyway. Let's take a quick look at it. All right, fair enough. That's a new thing. We'll just go straight for the brigades and launch this one. Now, again, those of you that are unfamiliar with Napoleonic war games like Scourge of War Waterloo have to understand that it goes by an order of battle system. And what does that mean? That means that we actually get letters delivered by courier. That's right, old-fashioned courier. And this will allow us to know exactly what we want to do. A lot of people may not be fans of this. Personally, I think it's absolutely beautiful. And once you actually start commanding your troops, you have to decide how you want to move them and in what formation you want to move them. You can go ahead and move them little by little, or you can select your brigade general. In this case, it's Marshal François Baudouin, and we can actually move the entire group together, or column by division. And look at that beautiful movement. They're going to start moving into action, guys. We've got the Brits waiting for us over here. Those dastardly Englishmen. No offense to the English subs. We love you all. But we need to do something to, of course, reach their location. Now, you can see you don't control every commander on the field. Depending on what you choose, that is who you're going to be controlling. And if at any point you want to micromanage here and kind of, do your own thing, you can certainly do that. I want to get us up to a point where we're actually face-to-face with the enemy. So we're going to stop right here, and we were going to return very, very soon. Now, some of you may be asking, Agrippa, why does it look like you have stretched this game all across the screen? Well, that's because this game doesn't render properly. It's an older game, like I said, and to get the absolute best resolution, we have to make a lot of different editing choices here, and it's one of the reasons why I always ask viewers of this channel to like, comment, and subscribe. It may seem like I'm just playing a couple games here, but what I'm doing is in-depth research to make sure you get the best games possible, the best bang for your buck, and often we play older titles that require me to do a lot of editing just to get you guys a visual representation on the screen. Right now, I am leading these divisions one at a time because I want to make sure that you guys get some visuals of the gunfire in between the units. But there's something else I want to mention about this game that you may have already noticed that, in my opinion, makes this quite different from the others, and in a good way, and that is, this encompasses the entire Battle of Waterloo. I'm talking every single individual soldier, every single individual unit and brigade commander and division commander, and every single cannon that was on the field that day. The developers, Norbsoft Dev, have gone out of their way to give you guys a realistic experience, and I think that that is something that is pretty rare these days. especially with more mainstream titles like Napoleonic Total War as an example. Now right here, I'm just trying to get you guys a visual representation of good old-fashioned line battle. We're already getting shot at by the Brits, but I'm making a little bit of an exception here to make sure we get close. You can actually see some of our men are already falling, and if we wanted to, we could start firing already. We could halt this line and start opening fire on the Brits, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to halt. Once you see that indicator there, it lets us know that our men see them and they can start taking shots at them. They're going to start lining up, getting those rifles ready, and opening fire. And there we go. It begins. Fire at will, men. You can control, by the way, everything down to the kind of fire they do, to the formations they use when firing, etc. We're just keeping things fairly simple now so that you guys get the best visual representation. And as you can see, I mean, I can view this from the side. I can view this from behind. I can go over to where our cannons are firing all the way back there, and I can even see the British Highlanders approaching from the northwest here, and the British cannons firing from over there. Now, this is definitely a game where you're going to have to dedicate quite a bit of time to it to be able to get anything out of it. It's not just something you can play in a couple minutes, and this is just one tiny part of the battle being represented. You can see we're already firing away at the British Coldstream Guards, and that's right, just simply selecting them, I can see exactly what unit we're shooting at, and the same goes for me, exactly what unit we are controlling. Right here, it seems to be the 1st Léger Brigade Badouin, who's putting in work against the enemy. If you haven't noticed already, the uniforms are also different depending on the brigade you're commanding. Some are going to have lighter uniforms, some are going to have more gray than blue, or more green than red on the Allied side. It's totally up to you. But man, is this a beautiful game. Now, the next game we're going to be looking at is John Tiller's The Waterloo Campaign. And again, very similar to the previous game, the creators of this one have gone out of their way to bring you the finest representation of the Battle of Waterloo possible. As you can see, each and every general is represented, including all of the cavalry units, infantry units, etc. in the actual fight itself. And this is only one of the many fights you can get in the game itself. I mean, when I say one of the fights, you play the entire campaign of Waterloo, of course, but you play, throughout the day, different hours of the day, etc. If you want to zoom in, you can get a much more detailed view, as it were, of the units here. So you can actually take a look specifically at each infantry unit. You can turn them as you see fit. And I have to say, maybe even more so than Scourge of War Waterloo, this is one where you're probably going to have to take a little look at the manual. It's not simple. It definitely requires a little bit of learning, to put it mildly, but again, it's so well represented, and this is just the first part of the battle. We're trying to reach the town of Lecomte, and we can see there are British units over here defending that town as well. Now, once we get into firing range of these units, and you can see they're all well represented by men, strength, the quality of the men from A to B to C. The chasseurs, of course, are B-tier troops, pretty strong. They're going to begin exchanging fire, which of course you will control. And once you start damaging certain units, you're going to move that strength down from 100% to maybe 75, maybe 50%, much like a real unit. Once you get to about 50 or 40%, these units are going to break. They're going to become disrupted. If you played any John Tiller games in the past, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. And again, you definitely need to learn this game. The learning curve is steep. I'm not going to lie to you. It's going to take a little bit of training on your part to get good at it. But once you start actually engaging and firing, it's not as detailed as Scourge of War Waterloo is, and being able to see the troops, but you do see the fire, and you do see the number of casualties caused in each engagement. So you'll see, 8 men go down here, 10 men go down here, etc., etc. And then, of course, you'll check up on the troops and see the situation. You can also kill commanders, kill generals, etc. So make sure to keep Napoleon in a safe location. But I would definitely make this my number 2 in terms of best Napoleonic War games. These are not games that you're going to see posted on other channels. They're just not. They're never going to talk about them. Probably the only one you're going to see posted on other channels is going to be Napoleonic Total War, which, by the way, that game's just fine. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's simply not as detailed and is not going to give you the experience that you would get on a more detailed game like this or like Scourge of War. And you can see this is actually considered one of the smaller parts of the battle, and it's absolutely massive. For those of you wondering, it does have play by email, aka it does have multiplayer. So yes, if that's something that interests you, you can make it happen. March to Glory. I wanted to make sure to make one of the games on this list something that's approachable by virtually anybody. And that's going to be March to Glory. Now, this is one that, of course, just like the other two, allows you to command either the First French Empire or the coalition, of course. In this case, we are selecting the Battle of Austerlitz. And again, this is much more of sort of a board game approach, I guess you could say. You can get all sorts of bonuses, assault bonuses for your units before a battle, of course, with this promotion phase. I really wanted to do Agiod's Wars of Napoleon. And actually, I was the creator of the tutorial for Agiod's Wars of Napoleon. Well, I shouldn't say the creator, but I was the voice of the tutorial. And I really wanted to do it, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, Agiod's will not render. It simply will not render. But this one is one that is quite approachable. I believe just about anybody can learn to play it, and it gives you that beautiful feel of a Napoleonic War battle, along with the loss of men on each side. It allows you to command multiple parts of the battlefield, including the artillery, of course, the cavalry, the infantry, etc. It's certainly not as detailed as the other two games that I have shown you, but like I said before, this one is approachable by just about anyone else. Another one that I wanted to add to this list, but it's simply too old, is the original Fields of Glory. And let me tell you guys, the only people that are going to play the original Fields of Glory, you really got to get over the visuals. They're not as impressive, even as the first two games we showed here. And I mean, I'm going to be honest with you guys, most of the Napoleonic War games that we showed here are not that impressive visually. That's not what they're here for. They're not. Aside from, of course, Napoleon Total War, you got to get into this for the gameplay. You've got to appreciate the gameplay. You've got to appreciate the Napoleonic era to get into any of these games. But I would definitely say the first two stand alone as extremely special games, ones that I would recommend, including this one. Again, I put it third on the list because of its accessibility. It's something that anybody can play. It's a fine game. This one in particular has mixed reviews on Steam, but I think it's just as fun to play as the other two, especially if you're playing with a friend or something like that. In this one, you don't have to be rushed, and this is a much more beer and pretzels approach to a Napoleonic War game. You can really take your time, and it's not going to take a ridiculous amount of time to get through each and every battle. However, if you're still looking for a logistics bonus, something like that, or a logistics focus, I would still take the second game, the John Tiller game, over this one. But if you're looking for just a quick battle and a fun time, pick it up. and it's not going to let you down. I'll also say the voice acting in this one is really good. We don't get much voice acting in the other two, if any voice acting at all. So I would definitely consider this one for somebody that's new to the Napoleonic war game genre. As always, I want to reiterate that making these videos, guys, takes a long time. It takes a lot of editing. It takes a tremendous amount of research. And I hope you keep that in mind when you consider whether or not to become a channel member. We're really trying to build up those channel members. All you got to do is hit that join button. It's a couple of bucks a month. And what I like to give in return is game keys. You can ask our existing members that we give out game keys. In fact, we just gave a few out for Angola 86. However, I must say that we don't typically have game keys for games as old as these. If you ask, I can try to get them, but it's going to take a little bit longer. That being said, I hope I haven't let you down with a list of 3 of my favorite Napoleonic war games and what I consider some of the best on the market today. It's kind of shocking to me that there aren't more of these games on the market. I think this is an era, especially for war gamers, that is absolutely chock full of coverage and gameplay and all sorts of stuff. But for whatever reason, it's just simply one that hasn't been touched upon much. As always, like, comment, subscribe. I'll catch you on another video. And yeah, if you have any other, wars that you'd like to focus on, any other wars in particular that you'd like me to do top 3 videos on, I will do my best. Take care. I'll catch you on the next one.